And today I'm going to talk about integrating nopCommerce with third-party systems. Before I do that, let me introduce myself. My name is Milen Kovachev, and I'm one of the co-founders of noptemplates.com. The other two co-founders are here with me in the audience, so if you feel like it, please come to us in between the lectures or at the hackathon. We'll be happy to meet as many of you as possible. We are very shy, so please approach us. This is the team, at least most of the team. These are the people who, for the past 4 years, have been developing only nopCommerce themes and plugins. We have right now more than 20 teams, which we consider to be complete e-commerce solutions, and we advertise them accordingly because we pack them with most of our plugins. And we have more than 25 plugins. We just celebrated our 4th birthday a few days ago, and it marks the first sale of our signature plugin, the nopAjax filters. Since then, we've managed to increase our user base from 1 to more than 10,000, and we have close to 4,000 paid customers all over the world. nopCommerce is really popular. We have customers we have payments from more than 100 countries. We have very exotic destinations, for example, Nigeria, Jamaica, Tajikistan. So you can be assured that nopCommerce and .NET are being used all over the world. So that's it about us. We are here, so you can meet us, which is great. The not so great thing about it is that I can only imagine what the others are doing right now in Sofia. Okay, so yeah, this is the team again. Doing their daily scrum, you know. This is the agenda for today. First, I'm going to tell you about the problem that we had when we started the company. And then I'm going to walk you through the solution of this problem. I'm going to briefly describe these 3 technologies here because they are the cornerstones of our solution. And at the end, I'm going to demonstrate the solution, which is integrating Gmail with nopCommerce. The solution kind of reviews the problem, but let me tell you more about it. So when we started the company, we started having more and more communication with customers or potential leads or pretty much everybody through our Gmail account, and this communication quickly became sort of cumbersome and time-consuming because when I was to reply to somebody who I didn't know, I couldn't get the whole picture right into Gmail. I didn't know who the customer was, where they were from, if they have bought something from us, what they have bought, whether they had licenses that are expiring. So I didn't have the information I needed, and I had to switch back and forth Gmail and nopCommerce all the time, and do a customer search in the backend, which is kind of difficult because customers use different emails for registration. So I need to search by email, then by first name, then by last name, then by company name, till I find the customer. Then I need to go to their orders, then click each order and open the product. So it was really frustrating. And when you have 20 or 30 emails like this in your inbox waiting for you in the morning, it's sort of discouraging. So we had to do something about it. And at the time, we found that Salesforce had an integration with Gmail, and therefore we created a plugin for nopCommerce that exported all the data from nopCommerce to Salesforce, and then we bought a separate subscription for this app, which I'm not going to name here, but you can rewind that it exists. So we were using this app, which was actually pulling the data from Salesforce, and at the same time, our nopCommerce plugin was exporting the data to Salesforce. And we had all the information we need in Gmail, which kind of worked, but wasn't perfect because the information wasn't always up to date, and the plugin was syncing the data with Salesforce, I think, once a day or every 2 days, once every 2 days. And also we were paying a decent amount of money to Salesforce for an API subscription, and we wanted to make full use of the CRM, but we couldn't because there was no way for the data to flow from Salesforce to nopCommerce. There wasn't a two-way integration with Salesforce. So imagine if I'm in Salesforce and I want to do my sales workflow or whatever. If I change a customer address, or if I complete an order, or if I create a new lead, there was no way for this information to be reflected back into nopCommerce. So I had to go back to nopCommerce to create customers and complete orders. So we couldn't use Salesforce, and it quickly became apparent that this is not the real solution to the problem. Therefore, for the past 3 months, we've been working on a solution to this problem, and I can say that finally we have something. And this is a very high-level overview of our solution. It consists of three pieces of software. It has a browser extension which integrates with Gmail. It has an intermediary service we've called it Story, which talks to the browser extension in Gmail and respectively talks to nopCommerce. So we developed the browser extension, we developed the intermediary service, and there was one final piece that we had to develop. And this is actually, I believe, one big missing piece in nopCommerce. Having in mind that nopCommerce has so many features and it's such a great product, it's still missing this piece. And can you guess what it is? API, yeah. So the focus of my presentation is going to be on developing a web API plugin for nopCommerce. So it's going to be this part of our solution. And at the end, I'm going to demo the whole solution to you. Speaking of web API, brings me to my next slide, which is about ASP Web API 2.0. How many of you are familiar with web API? Have you used it? Great. I might as well just leave now. Yeah, okay, let me just briefly describe it then. Web API is just a framework like MVC, for example. It has section, it has controllers, routing, pretty much everything you inherit from an API controller rather than from controller like in MVC. But it's a framework just like MVC. The main difference is that it is designed to talk to machines rather than to humans. So web API serves JSON and XML. It doesn't serve HTML, or at least it is not designed to serve HTML. And it has the facilities to allow all this development of an API. It has, for example, predefined HTTP responses. It has automatic serialization of the data in the responses, routing, as I mentioned, etc. So it is the standard for developing APIs on top of the .NET framework, and it was the natural choice for our solution. The other very important thing to realize about the web API is that it is an independent framework. It is available as a NuGet package, so it is independent of IIS and System Web. You can use it in your own hosting solution. And speaking of being host agnostic, brings me to my next slide, which is about Owen and Katana. I guess you're familiar with Owen, or no? Okay, gives me something to talk about again. OWIN stands for Open Web Interface for .NET, and it's just a specification. It's nothing else. And Katana is the Microsoft implementation of this specification. OWIN is inspired by Node.js and Ruby Rack, if you're familiar with these technologies. And The popularity and the success of these frameworks could be attributed to one very simple concept. And the idea is that your application layer is independent of the host. So here you can view OWN as the glue between your application and the host. The other very important thing about OWN is that your application layer, which runs in the OWN infrastructure, is composed of separate components. The green boxes above these components, and these components are called middlewares. So these middlewares are chained into a pipeline in your OWN pipeline, and when a request arrives at the web server, it goes to this pipeline of middlewares, and a middleware is nothing more than a delegate in .NET. It's just code that executes in the pipeline. And when the request passes through this pipeline, every middleware has a chance to either modify the response or to serve the response immediately. So as you can see, it's very modular, and it's very easy to compose your application of independent components. And this is very good actually, because all these middlewares like Web API, MVC is also available as a middleware. SignalR, we have the OAuth middlewares, etc. They're available as NuGet packages, so you can just pull them from NuGet, install them in your OWN project, and just use them. And OWN is, as I said, host agnostic. You can use it with your own host, but you can also use it with IIS and System Web. And this is actually what we did in our solution. Here I want to briefly talk about how this is achieved. So if you want OWN to integrate with your HTTP application, you need to have this NuGet package in your solution. It's the Microsoft OWN Host System Web assembly. And this assembly contains one single HTTP module, which is initialized by the application. And when initialized, it has the responsibility to find all the middlewares in your OWN project and register them in the IIS pipeline. By default, the OWN module registers the middlewares at the pre-handler execute event, which is the event that fires before the handler, actually the chosen handler by MVC, is executed. Execute handler is not an event, it's just a point in time in the execution of the request. So you're guaranteed in this way that your OWN middlewares can execute before MVC. And in this way, you can integrate with System Web and have your OWN application run under IIS. And this is something we used, and later I'll show you more details about it. So this is about OWN and Web API. The last technology that we used in our solution is something that no Web API can do without, and it has to do with authorization and the subsequent authentication of the requests. So this is about Open Authorization 2.0. OAuth 2.0 is a topic of itself. It's a huge topic, so I'm not going to go deep into this, but if you look for it on the web, you'll find tons of documentation. It feels like a scholarly topic with huge articles and diagrams, complicated stuff, when it actually is pretty simple. And the most important thing that you need to know about it is that it supports several authorization workflows. There are several ways for a client to authorize to a web server, and these authorization workflows are called grant types. So we have the authorization code grant type, we have the implicit grant type, the password, etc. In our case, we use the authorization code grant type because this is the standard when an application that is also running on a web server needs to authorize to a web server. So if you can remember from my previous slide, we have the storage service, which is a cloud service actually running on a server, and it talks to nopCommerce, so it needs to authorize to the nopCommerce API that we developed. I'll just briefly walk you through the workflow. So the client sends a request to the server and basically says, this is me, this is where I'm located, please give me access. The server then verifies the client ID and the callback URL against its database and returns an authorization code, which is a temporary code, and tells the client basically, okay, if you're really who you claim you are, then you would know what to do with this authorization code. The client takes the authorization code and returns it to the server along with its client secret this time. The client ID and the callback URL are again included in the request. The server then verifies these 4 parameters. There are various ways to verify the parameters, but I'm not going to go into this right now. And if everything is okay, the server returns an access token and a refresh token to the client. The client then can use the access token to access protected resources on the server. In this case, the protected resources are the nopCommerce orders, the customers, the products, everything. It is interesting why we have an access token along with a refresh token. I'm not going to go into this because I don't have time, but the only thing I want to say, this is a best practice. You better have a refresh token because your access tokens need to expire in a short period of time. They need to be short-lived, and this is done for various security reasons. So if you'd like to find more about it, I can show it to you at the hackathon if you come and talk to us. So these are the 3 technologies that we used. Using them on its own in your, say, vanilla web API solution is sort of straightforward. You can do it fairly easily, but using it in the context of nopCommerce as a plugin is more challenging. And next, I'm going to talk about the challenges that we had when we created the API plugin. First of all, we had to integrate OAuth with nopCommerce. And to integrate OAuth with nopCommerce, we had to have the Microsoft OAuth host system WebAssembly in the bin folder of nopCommerce, which was not possible because this assembly is in our plugin folder. And we don't want to touch the code of nopCommerce, as you saw from the previous lecture. So when installed, our plugin makes a few changes to the nopCommerce web config. It adds an external reference to this assembly via an assembly compilation tag, so that the HTTP application can pick the assembly. And it also adds a probing path to our plugin folder, so that the application knows where to load the assembly from. So this might feel a little bit hacky, but I think it's okay because it's just 2 entries in the web config which are added dynamically and which should not create any problems. So when the OAuth module starts, it has a pre-application start code. I guess you're familiar with the pre-application start. It's in nopCommerce. nopCommerce uses it to bootstrap the plugins. So it has a pre-application start code that finds all the middlewares and registers them in the OAuth pipeline. In our case, we have these middlewares, which have to do with OAuth and the bearer token authentication. These middlewares are registered specifically at the post-authenticate event. They are not registered by default at the pre-handle or execute event. And in a minute, I'll show you why we do this. And the web API is registered at the default event, and it executes it as an OAuth middleware before MVC. Integrating web API into nopCommerce was the other challenge, which was more straightforward. We had a choice either to use Web API as just another assembly that we reference and we inherit from the API controllers and everything, or use Web API as an OAuth middleware. First of all, we use OAuth anyway because we need the additional middlewares from NuGet, like the bearer token middleware and the cross-origin policy middleware, etc. So it didn't make sense to use Web API as outside OAuth. But we tried to do it just for testing purposes, and we quickly realized that it's not going to work because we cannot register the Web API routes before the nopCommerce routes. And Web API, by the way, has wrappers around its routes and around its request handlers. So there is absolutely no problem to have the Web API routes registered in the global routing table of the HTTP application. But if we were to do this, this would have conflicted with the nopCommerce routes, and it just didn't work. So we had no other choice but to use Web API as an OAuth middleware. Let me just briefly open Visual Studio and show you all these middlewares. So every OAuth, this is the API plugin, and it has a startup class here. Yeah. Better? Is it? So a startup class is something that the OAuth module looks for when it bootstraps. And when it finds a startup class in an assembly, and by the way, you can have only one startup class, otherwise you get runtime errors. When it finds a startup class, it calls its configuration method. And the configuration method is your place where you need to register your OAuth middlewares. For example, here at the top we have the cross-origin policy middleware, which is a NuGet package. We use it out of the box. It registers first. Then we register the authorization and authentication middlewares. They are here in this configure OAuth method. This is the OAuth 2.0 middleware. This is our custom bearer token middleware, and this is the bearer authentication middleware, which is again from NuGet. As you can see, we use this line of code here, use stage marker to register the middlewares before, to register the middlewares at the post-authenticate event. We had to do this because we had to solve another problem, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But right now, I just wanted to show you the startup class and how you can register your middlewares. All middlewares are registered with a method that starts with use. So when you see use course, use Web API, it's a middleware. And this is what is happening when the OAuth module bootstraps and loads our Web API plugin. And the most difficult problem to solve in our plugin was the authorization and the bearer token authentication of the requests. The Web API requests are being authenticated via bearer token, which is sent along with the requests. But this conflicts with the forms authentication in nopCommerce. And if you can imagine, you have your nopCommerce store and you log in as the store owner with administrative credentials. Then, because you have forms authentication, you have a cookie in your browser that authorizes the browser session to nopCommerce. If then you go to your third-party service provider like Salesforce or whichever is talking to nopCommerce, and you try to do an API request from your dashboard or something, the forms authentication cookie is going to be sent along with this AJAX request. And of course, you can prevent this hack around this, but this is not a real solution. And it's going to conflict with the forms authentication, and your bearer token authentication would not work. Why is this so? Because force authentication and the bearer token authentication, they use the current threat principle, and force authentication executes at the authenticate event in the the HTTP application pipeline, and when it finds the cookie, it just authorizes the request and sets the current principle. And when the bearer token middleware executes, and the bearer token middleware is going to execute by default, is going to execute at the pre-handler execute event. It will see that the request, the current principle is already set, and it will just let the request go through. So in order to work around this problem, we created a custom middleware, which is a very little piece of code. So in this way, when the bearer token authentication middleware executes, it has a chance to really authorize the request. And there are a few other things here which boil down to a custom authorized attribute, and it's a little bit more tricky than that, but I do not want to go into details right now. You can join us at the hackathon and see the whole code. So these were the 3 challenges that we solved in our API plugin. And you already saw this slide. This is the solution to our plugin. And next, I'm going to just demo this whole thing to you. So Storeize online, it's available for free. You can register and you can use it. The plugin is also available for free. You can download it from our website. You can install it in your nopCommerce and use it. So this is the Storeize website. You can do the whole integration in just 3 easy steps. And we start by creating an account in Storeize. Okay, this is your Storeize dashboard. It's pretty crude right now. It's work in progress too, but we are working on it. So next, we need to create an API user in nopCommerce, which is going to access, which is going to be used by Storeize to access nopCommerce. This is noptemplates.com, and this is our API plugin. First, we need to create an API role. I have an existing role, but let's delete this one. So let's call this role Storeize. Next, we need to set the permissions of the API client. In our case, we will give it full permissions. It can access everything. So we have our API role. Next, we need to create an API client in nopCommerce. Let's delete this one too. So let's call it Storeize client. Here we need the callback URL. If you remember from the OAuth 2.0 workflow, we need the callback URL to the service so that nopCommerce knows where the service is located and can call it back with the authorization code and whatever. Okay, this is our API client. We'll give it full permissions. And next, we need to take the client ID. And the client secret. And use it to authorize store to nopCommerce. Okay, it says that my account has been set. So all I have to do is go to the dashboard now and install the Chrome extension. This extension is also available for Firefox, and it is also in the Chrome App Store right now. So click install, and it's done. Next, go to Gmail. And this is our sales account. And here it is. This widget loads. This is the browser extension. I'm going to log into store right now. And we're all done. It's working. If I hover over a contact, it does a search into noptemplates.com and it finds the customer. So you have here all the customer information, address, company, whatever. You can edit this information, save it to nopCommerce if you want. You have a very neat snapshot here, which gives you the closed orders, the abandoned orders, the canceled orders. So you can go to every single order if you want. Let's see this one, it's a big one. So you can also edit the order if you want. You can check the abandoned shopping carts here. You can do a search. So when you do a search, it will search by everything, by first name, last name, company, domain name. So it will find pretty much everything it thinks you might be interested in. And yeah, this is another me here. I can. Does anyone has communication with us? Does anyone want to have their email reviewed here? No. Andre, okay. You don't have any orders probably. Yeah. If you open the email, it will again load the contact. This is a very, very cool piece of software. It's written in Angular and it's a very lean integration with Gmail. It doesn't use Google Apps or anything. It is just very, very much aware of everything that's going on inside your inbox. It's actually my favorite piece of the whole project, and it is extremely useful at the moment to us because it gives us all the information that we need right into our inbox, and it saves us a lot of time. Now, if you can imagine here that you have information about the customer visits, what your customer visited the last week, what products they have viewed, what pages, if they have read your blog, for how long they've been on your website. And imagine if you had a product recommendation set tailored specifically to your customer based on a collaborative filtering algorithm. And ultimately, imagine that you have a projected customer lifetime value here. Then this is going to become the ultimate tool for people doing sales to nopCommerce and using Gmail. And actually, this is something we are currently working on. We are creating this distributed service, which is going to run in the cloud. It's actually very different. It's based on Java, Angular, Node.js, DataStax, Cassandra. It uses .NET also, so it's very cool software, and we hope to have it ready soon. And Stora is going to be the eye into this big data analytics service. And although it's still work in progress, you can download it from our website and just give it a go. Which brings me to the end of my presentation. As a summary, I just want to highlight why it is important to have an API for nopCommerce. IoT, of course, everything is connected nowadays, not only because other e-commerce platforms have it, but because this will allow third-party services to integrate with nopCommerce, CRMs, segmentation services, email providers. Everything will be able to integrate with nopCommerce, and this will also give an incentive to these service providers to create their own integrations with nopCommerce. So we believe that it's going to be an extreme boost to the system. And we're going to contribute. We've already spoken to Andrea. We are going to contribute this plugin, and hopefully we will be able to finish it in 2 months and make it available for 3.7. And that's it. Thank you for listening to me after lunch.